A very good evening to you and welcome to The Bottom Line, a wrap of the business news of the day. I'm Frances Hurd. And you may have noticed a lot more delivery vehicles, motorbikes as well on the roads. Shops are open, but many of us are still opting to shop online, which brings me to the number of the day. Let's take a look. The number of the day is 40%. According to a global shopping index published by Salesforce, the number of unique digital shoppers rose by 40%. That was year on year in the first quarter of this year of 2020. Now, in South Africa, 29% of online consumers say they are doing more shopping online. 65% say they are visiting less physical stores. So tonight we'll be asking if this is an e-commerce revolution or if we will all be scuttling back to the shops as soon as it's all over. So I guess the question is, could there be a small silver lining on all the economic pain in South Africa right now? An e-commerce player says that South Africa is undergoing an e-commerce revolution, and that could be a lifeboat for the economy. To discuss, we're joined by Cikes, a commercial director at Buy Now, Pay Later shopping site Payflex. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Cikes. So it's always been said that South Africans aren't that keen to shop online. We've seen the numbers go up year on year, but very slowly. How is COVID-19 changing all of that?
Sure. Good evening and hello to your viewers. Sure. We talk about e-commerce revolution. And as you were saying that, I kind of immediately think about a couple of stats that we've been looking at over the last couple of years. In South Africa, online transactions always accounted for roughly 2% of the total retail trade in South Africa as a whole. On a global basis, online transactions are normally around 10-12% of total retail transactions that are happening. And what we've seen happening in the first 6 months of this year so far is a massive increase in the number of transactions that are taking place online. And that's twofold. One, from existing retailers that have had their presence for some time. So you think about the Takealots, the Superbalist of the world. And then we've also seen a massive number of traditional bricks and mortar retailers starting to move and invest online. And that's both locally and internationally. So there is definitely a move of these to the online space.
Like you say, going to the shops nowadays is a very different experience as well to what it used to be before the lockdown and before COVID. But is this a long-term trend or short-term? Will we wait till this passes and then all rush back to the shops?
So, I mean, if we had this conversation at the beginning of lockdown, so when we were still level 5 and everybody was expecting to be in lockdown for 2 weeks, our view would have been it would have been a relatively short-term trend change. But the reality is that by the time we move out of lockdown fully and we are back into a world where COVID or the coronavirus is far less of a concern, because I don't think it's ever not going to be a concern for us, we would have probably spent around about 6 to 9 months of living at home, operating from home, working from home, transacting online. And so this would be, in our view, a far more fundamental shift in human behavior or consumer behavior. I was chatting to some of our merchants earlier today who are in the tire space. And they were telling us that statistically, or the stats at the moment are showing that people are driving around at 60% of the level that they used to drive around. So that's based on the fuel consumption from the fuel indexes. It's based on tire sales. So we're seeing people moving around a lot less. And so we believe it's going to become very much part of life.
So you looked at China, I think, and they were more hard hit by the previous SARS virus. Was that a fundamental shift in that society?
So, again, we've got a slight difference between what we would see as the South African economy and the Chinese economy. The Chinese economy was far more online and accessed the internet far more than the South African economy. In South Africa, we've got an economy, the formal economy, which is using internet, they're using the online space. And then we've got the more rural economy who don't do that and don't have necessarily the access to 3 or 4G or LTE technology. So it's a little bit more difficult for them to transact online. But the formal economy, or the economy that does have access to online in South Africa, is definitely using it more and more. We see in our transactions growth of 30% in the first month of lockdown, 40% month on month since then. So we're seeing the trade growing and growing every month. And that's not just groceries, that's across the board.
Yeah. Well, I'm really interested in clothes, because that's something I think South Africans have struggled to get their heads around. Overseas, you kind of order your clothes, try them on at home, send them back if they don't fit. But we are so used to trying on clothes. So you're a curator of a lot of different online sites. Are people buying clothes online?
Clothes, shoes, those are some of the top performing categories on the online space at the moment. And you talk about this ability to try it on, and does it fit, or do you send it back? The retailers online have really gotten smart in terms of how they help you make sure that you get the right sizes, whether it be shoes or whether it be clothes. So they'll offer you, while you're buying the first time, the ability to have a size guide. So if you bought this type of shoe previously, this is the kind of similar size in the shoe that you're looking at now. But then they get even smarter, because once you've bought with them once or twice, they get to know what size shoe you don't return. So then when you're buying another shoe, they've got a size comparison, and they can give you a good sense of where to go from there. So the guys are getting really smart about that.
All right. Thank you so much for your time tonight. That was Cikes, Commercial Director at Payflex.